Hey, what's up, guys? It is Dan from FightWave, and today I'm joined by somebody I'm very excited to speak with. If you know anything about me, you know I love the bantamweight division in the UFC, and today's guest is no exception to the pecking order. Somebody who I've been keeping a tentative eye on since his rise in the UFC bantamweight rankings. Somebody who is, in my opinion, poised to make a run in 2024 in the bantamweight division as it's wide open for the time being, and he's probably got the best dang mullet on the active roster. Today I'm joined by Ricky Simone. How are we doing today, Ricky?
Great introduction. What's up, man?
I'm
I'm doing
doing
good.
I'm doing phenomenal, my brother. And today I'm excited to sit here and speak with you ahead of what's probably one of the best fights announced thus far for 2024 against Mario Bautista to kickstart the year with a bang. Talk to me about, just the preparation for the fight and how everything's been since, just taking some time off after the last fight.
Yeah, same old for me. I've been doing this for over a decade, so I have a bunch of fights, and I know how to get back on it even after a loss. So I've done some pretty great things, even coming off of losses. So I'm just back to business as usual for me. Nothing ever really changes. I work my ass off all the time. I'm always trying to get better. I'm not just a training camp fighter, and just back to work, expecting an exciting fight against Mario Bautista, January 13th.
No, yeah, definitely. We were just talking off air briefly about, just splitting time between Washington and between California, having some part of your camp up in Washington and some part of your camp up in, or in California at Team Oyama. Talk to me just about being able to split time between Washington and California, some of the positives of just being able to get different looks and also just being able to train with, so many different bodies.
Yeah, I mean, I first started coming out here like in 2019, when I first met like Alex Perez and Colin Oyama, and I was training with a bunch of the guys back then. And the team's kind of moved around a little bit now, but like there's always been like a core stable of like great training partners, especially my size over at Team Oyama. So that's why I make the trip out. And then also it's like December. It's right about to be December, and it's freezing over there in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, and I'm out here in the summer with my shirt off at the beach in California. So that's another perk to training out here.
No, yeah, definitely. I spoke with Ben Tyne, and he's like, the Colorado, or not the Colorado, the Washington weather is just absolutely depressing up there sometimes. So, got to get out when I can to California or
Mhm.
Colorado just to get inside nature and just to get some quality sunshine. But more importantly, you mentioned coming off a loss, we've seen some pretty great things. The last time you lost ahead of, the Song Yudong fight, you went on a remarkable 5-fight win streak, through the pandemic to up until the Yudong fight. Talk to me just about your mindset, being able to reset, revitalize, and be able to, really just kind of neutralize the loss and be able to come back twice as great. Because I feel like with Ricky Simone, when we see you fall one step back, you just take a step forward, 10 times more. So just talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's something you have to be able to do. I hear a lot of, I hear a lot of these undefeated fighters talk about what it's like coming back from a loss. And I went on an undefeated run as an amateur, and then made it to like 7-0 as a pro. And so I kind of remember what that felt like, losing for the first time. And I'm glad like I had experience with it while I was younger. At this point in my career, I'm 20-4 as a professional fighter, so I've had a lot more wins than losses over the years. And I don't know. I think it's just important to be able to bounce back, and that like I wrestled my entire life, so I wasn't always winning. It's the toughest sport you could do, and you're gonna take some losses for sure. So I know how to I know how to like just suck it up and come back tougher. And whether that be like I remember like being super young and losing early in a wrestling tournament and having to wrestle a bunch of times and getting beat up, but still placing third, and it's still feeling amazing to be able to come back and fight after a loss. So I always say that the only way to get like a bad taste out of your mouth is to go back in there and beat somebody up. So like I said, I'm really looking forward to that in January. And I wish I didn't have such a long layoff. That's something that I hate. I like to be active too. It might have been good, because I did take some damage in the last fight, but I like to be active. I would have liked to get back in there sooner, and I hope after this win in January I can steamroll a few more and be right back on track.
No, yeah, definitely. I was just looking at your record. You look at 2022 and 2023, not probably the level of activity I presume you would have been looking for, but you look at 2024, a year that I think is going to be poised for a lot of quality. Just returns for a lot of fighters. Coming through COVID, it was very kind of question mark to see. Just activity. You were active in 2021, 2022. There was some injuries and pullouts, and then 2023, obviously the Yadong fight, some damage sustained there, so had to take some time off. But I feel like, throughout your career, the theme of being active has just been there. And you look at the experience that you possess, you have I think, just in terms of active bantamweights, I think you have double the fights of more than half the active bantamweight roster, if I remember correctly. And just talk to me just about getting so much experience against quality opponents. I feel like with you fought the who's of the 135-pound division. So talk to me just about your comfort and, like, just knowing that you belong in that octagon against anyone they put alongside you, because you've had so much experience to match up and pair with that.
Yeah, no, I felt that way getting signed to the UFC. I feel like I got signed late. I was 12-1, and I'd watch these guys get signed at 6-0 and 5-0 and stuff like that. And I had fought for a few world titles outside of the UFC, and even fought on the Contender Series. And so I felt pretty well established before I even got into the UFC. But now, coming up on 6 years signed to the UFC, I just signed, I think, my fifth contract with the promotion, which I'm super happy about, because everyone knows it's not about just getting to the UFC; it's about staying there. So if I'm this far into my career with the UFC, I think it speaks for itself. Like, I know I belong, and I know I can mix it up with anybody in the toughest division, which I think is the bantamweight division. So I don't think as far as confidence, it's not something that I had trouble with these days. Like, especially, I'm 31 now. I'm not a young. I remember when I was a young, 21-year-old professional fighter, and I was like trying to prove myself, and I was a little more nervous, but I've mixed it up with the best in the world, and I've trained with the best in the world, so I know where I belong.
Absolutely. And more importantly, I got to highlight this because I feel like it would be wrong not to highlight it. You know, it's always interesting to see family dynamics in fighting, and more importantly, I think it's always unique to have people who are in the same sport, same discipline as you, and they understand the struggle. And a unique dynamic, probably one of the more unique dynamics I've seen across all of MMA is your relationship with your cousin and also fellow fighter Vince Morales, which I think is one of the more interesting combinations to have two family members who are at the highest level of fighting, both excelling. Talk to me about that relationship with your cousin Vince. Just seeing him being able to succeed, you succeeding, and just being able to take insight off of each other and grow together as a family unit.
Yeah, it's been actually absolutely crazy, actually, to have a cousin in the same weight class, make it to the highest level. And I mean, and we did like grow up, see each other like every summer, and we were close. Actually, he has a younger brother that I was really close with, and I mean, I have an older brother that's only 17 months older than me, so him and my older brother were a little closer, and it would just be us two fighting them two all the time. So I don't know. It's crazy to see, and it's awesome to share a lot of the same um, great moments and even bad moments. We've been in each other's corners and stuff. So it is awesome. We also have a podcast, Just Cuz podcast, that we run, and Vince also is training over in Japan right now, which is crazy. Possibly getting ready for a fight on Risen. So he's driving some vlogs. So I probably you guys would go to Vince Morales's YouTube page and check that out.
No, yeah, definitely. It's just been remarkable because I always love seeing that, when you see kind of just like two people from the same family, or like, and you guys both, he's mentioned when I spoke to him, even though both of our careers were having at two completely different points. Me fighting out in Vegas and Utah a lot, and then Ricky obviously fighting in the Pacific Northwest a lot coming up. We both still made it to the highest level despite not being able to train with each other as much just because of where we were based. So it's been remarkable to see just
Hmm.
not just pure coincidence, but pure drive to see both of you guys excel at the highest level. And like you mentioned, him possibly getting a fight on Risen would be a bucket list item, I think, for any fighter. So I look forward to watching that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm excited. Now, let me tell you one quick story about Vince, because we're always talking crap. I wrestled like my entire life since I was in elementary school, and I had, like, with one goal in mind, was to be a state champion in Washington State. And like I said, I started wrestling in elementary school. Vince decides to start wrestling his freshman year in high school, and he becomes the state champ by his senior year in wrestling. His senior year, he won state. I ended up never winning. I was ranked first. I ended up injury defaulting out my senior year. But Vince likes to throw it in my face that he's the only state champ in the family. So I just want people to know that about him. He's not always the nicest. So
No, that this if this was a conversation at the Thanksgiving table, if this was recorded pre-Thanksgiving, that would be a hot contested topic. But more importantly, it's just been amazing to see what both of you have accomplished, because I feel like in this day and age, with all the negativity surrounding fighting, it's great to see just fighters and people who are just close and tight knit all excelling. That's important. That's most importantly what we want out of this sport, is to see fighters excelling and growing in this sport and being able to put on the best fights that they can and putting on the best performances. And I feel like we really do get that from both of you. And just with yourself, Ricky, I feel like something we get with you, which is very not just unique to you, but it's something that's very much so necessary, is your ability to kind of separate from the fight game a little bit. I feel like it's a very important part of the fight game. It's being able to separate yourself in times of need, to reset, decompress, and kind of take a step back from all the chaos that the social media game can bring with it, and just, all the negative aspects. So talk to me just about, taking some much needed time away, spending time with family and, with your wife and child, and just being able to reset amidst all the chaos of the fight game and come back and do what you love just twice as strong.
yeah, I would say like I definitely feel that I do that very well. So like I'm not like always on social media or having to post or answer to everyone at any given time. But I will say like as far as like I'm never outside the gym. Like I might even train 7 days a week with a couple like half days or something like that. So this is very much what I do, and I think because I love it so much, it makes it that much easier. Because at the end of the day, I'm a realist. Like I'm getting to compete in a sport. You know, I've been doing it for over 10 years now. I get to do that for a living, and so I'm thankful and I'm grateful, and I'm always trying to figure out how I can be better and more entertaining. But it's not that hard for me. Like I said, it's just not that serious to me as it might have been when I was younger. Like I've been doing this for such a long time. I've had so many highs and so many lows. Like I just love the sport. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm genuinely excited to go out there and like find something out every fight. You know.
No, yeah, definitely. And another thing that I love about you is, no shortage of excitement to kind of spoil the party and really be having, career moments in that octagon. I feel like with Ricky Simone, when you look at your fights, one that stands out to me in particular is going over to UFC London and absolutely ruining, the homecoming of one of the fan favorites in the form of Jack Shore with a standout performance there. Throughout your career, we've seen highlight performances time and time again, and just, memories being created in that octagon. But one thing I wanted to pick your brain on, because it's a very interesting dynamic going into 2024, is actually, in the form of UFC Noche. I know that, you obviously have, you're American, but you also have Mexican roots. I wanted to ask you, just in terms of, creating memories at this stage in your career, what would it mean for you to fight at UFC Noche now that the talks about the Sphere are happening? It's very much something that's not being looked into. It's confirmed, but the logistics of it are still kind of being undergone. What would it mean for you to fight on UFC Noche at the Sphere in front of what's presumably going to be a sold out Mexican crowd?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. If it's not gonna be in Mexico City, then in Vegas at the Sphere would be amazing experience. I was at the last one in Vegas, and it was one of my favorite crowds I've ever been a part of. I was just there watching. I took my dad, and it was I remember even then I wish I was on the card. Like I was in the crowd. I was like, man, I wish I was on this card. These fans are awesome, and I feel like the Mexican fighters always bring it too. They always fight with their heart, and that's one thing I'm so thankful for. That I feel like I got that. I feel like I have that Aztec warrior blood, and I feel like every time I'm out there, I feel like I'm fighting with my heart, and I'm so thankful to like to the fans and to the crowd and to be a part of that. Like even like after the fights, they were coming up to me and telling me that they wish I would have fought that night too. And I told them I would definitely try to get on one of the future cards, or maybe one in Mexico would be awesome too.
No, yeah, definitely. I feel like now with kind of the dust settling and, some of the injuries being tended to, 2024 is poised to be a
Yeah.
standout and breakout year for Ricky Simone. More importantly, the bantamweight divisions look the best it's ever looked. I feel like you are a major force and player in this bantamweight division right now, personally speaking. Talk to me just about the goals going into 2024, looking to stay active, really make a statement performance and make your presence felt in the division, because I feel like, with the win over Mario Bautista, it's time for Ricky Simone to fight someone up and really, once again, stake his claim at the top of the bantamweight division. So talk to me about your goals just as it stands and your thoughts on the bantamweight division.
Yeah, my immediate goal is to I signed a new 4-fight deal with the UFC is to really get through at least 3 of those fights this in 2024, starting off in January 13th with a win over Mario. I think I can get a great win against him. He's on a good 5-fight win streak right now, and then just keep it going. I don't want the time off. I got ranked my first year in the UFC back when I was 25. I was already ranked after I beat Ronnie Yaya. So I've been amongst the top of the division for such a long time. Um, I would like I mean, when I was younger, I would say I wanted bigger fights. I wanted bigger fights. Like I think younger me would have been disappointed in this fight against Bautista, especially coming off of what the streak I was on and taking a short notice main event against Song Yadong. But but for me now, I know what the game's about. I know it's about just getting to the next fight, getting the right fights on the contracts, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that right now. I just want to put together. I know what I got to do. I got to get some wins again. And then I think after 2 or 3 wins, I'm right back in the mix. Before that Song Yadong fight, they were trying to get a rematch between Marab and I. I have a win over Marab. He's ranked #1. I know he was not taking fights earlier on because of his teammate Aljo was the champ, and I know he has a fight against Cejudo coming up. But that's a fight that's always interested me. If I know Font has a rematch coming up too against Figgy. That's another one. That's another rematch I would like. I know Font has a fight against Figgy coming up. So if we're thinking about in the future some big fights that I would like, either of those rematches sound good to me.
No, yeah, definitely. Right. Just for you, I feel like the most exciting matchups in the division lie with you being on one half of them, and I feel like the best is yet to come from Ricky Simone. Only 31 years of age, still the best is yet to come. And I know it wouldn't be a Ricky Simone interview if I didn't ask this question. I gotta ask you, just on a personal note, how do you maintain the mullet? Because the mullet might be pound for pound #1 in all of MMA right now. I mean, I gotta get some tips and tricks on how to maintain the mullet.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of work, especially if you're training. You ever been like pinned down by like a knee by your hair on the mat? It's not cool, especially as a guy. But it's flowing nicely. I think it's at the perfect length at this point. My barber junior has been killing it, and it's back. It's back. But I would say I always hit a point where I'm like, I might just shave my head. I might go into the shaved heads because it is a lot of moly maintenance. But I'm doing it for the people.
No, yeah, absolutely. Maybe next fight we see Ricky Simone come out and look like Brian Ortega against the Korean Zombie. Who knows at this point?
Yeah,
But Ricky,
yeah.
thank you so much for your time. An honor and privilege to speak with you, and I look forward to watching you fight on January 13th. I know it's going to be one of those fights that everyone is going to be looking to just to kickstart the year with a bang. It feels like the UFC knows what they're doing when they put you on a card to kickstart 2024. They know Ricky Simone brings it every single time. They know that the
Mhm.
fight's going to be one of the best fights in the night. So I wish you the best of skill in that matchup, and more importantly, to the fans at home watching, do be sure to check out Ricky Simone on social media, one of the best fighters in the UFC right now, facing Mario Bautista January 13th. Huge thank you to our sponsors that make this possible. It's been me, Dan, for FightWave. Have a great day, guys.